The rain had been falling for 3 days straight. I pressed my forehead against the cold window of the bus, watching the dense forest blur past in shades of gray and green. The smell of wet earth mixed with the stale air inside the vehicle, and I could hear the rhythmic drumming of water against metal, a sound that had become the soundtrack to my anxiety. My hands trembled slightly as I clutched the worn canvas bag on my lap. Everything I owned in the world fit inside it now. 23 years old, and I was starting over, again. The other passengers kept their distance, as they always did. I'd learned not to take it personally anymore, though the ache never quite disappeared. There was something about me, something quiet, something that made me fade into backgrounds while others naturally drew the light. My pale blonde hair hung limp around my face, and I knew my clothes, though clean, marked me as someone from the edges of society. Someone forgettable. Someone alone. The bus lurched to a stop at the border station, and my stomach clenched. This was it. The Shadowpine territory. I'd heard the stories, of course, everyone had. The packs that lived here were old, powerful, and they didn't welcome outsiders easily. But the job posting had been clear. Human staff needed at the royal estate. Room, board, and wages that would let me send money back to the orphanage where I'd grown up, where kids still needed what I'd never had, stability. "Last stop," the driver called out, his voice rough. "Anyone getting off here better be sure. They don't let just anyone back out once you cross that line." I stood on shaky legs, slinging my bag over my shoulder. Only 2 other people exited with me, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a young man who wouldn't meet anyone's gaze. We were the desperate ones, I realized. The ones with nowhere else to go. The rain soaked through my thin jacket within seconds. The border station was nothing more than a wooden shelter with 2 guards stationed beneath it, massive men with eyes that gleamed amber even in the dim afternoon light. Werewolves. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Names," one of them growled, not unkindly, but with the authority of someone who'd never had to ask twice. "Emma Whitfield," I said, my voice barely audible over the rain. He checked his clipboard, then jerked his head toward the road beyond. "Royal Estate sent transport. Should be here soon. Wait over there." The 3 of us huddled beneath a large pine tree, its branches offering minimal shelter. The woman introduced herself as Margaret, a cook. The young man said nothing, just stared at the ground. I tried to make myself smaller, an old habit from years of trying not to be noticed, not to be a burden. That's when I heard it, the low rumble of an engine, far more expensive than the bus I'd arrived on. A black SUV emerged from the mist like something from another world, sleek and intimidating. It stopped directly in front of us, and a woman in her 40s stepped out, impeccably dressed despite the weather, holding an umbrella. "I'm Mrs. Thornfield, head of household staff," she announced, her sharp eyes assessing each of us in turn. When her gaze landed on me, something flickered in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or concern. "You're the new nanny?" "Yes, ma'am," I said, straightening my spine despite the cold water running down my neck. "You're younger than I expected." She didn't sound pleased, and human. "The posting didn't specify." "I know what the posting said," she cut me off, but not cruelly. "Get in, all of you." The interior of the SUV was warm and smelled of leather and pine. I sat in the back, watching the forest grow denser as we drove deeper into the territory. Margaret tried to make small talk, but Mrs. Thornfield's responses were clipped, distracted. Something was wrong. I could feel it in the tension of her shoulders, the way she kept checking her phone. "Is everything all right?" I asked quietly, then immediately regretted it. Who was I to question her? But Mrs. Thornfield met my eyes in the rearview mirror, and for a moment, her professional mask slipped. "The household is in transition. The young lady you'll be caring for, she's 7 years old. Her name is Lily. Her mother passed away 6 months ago." My chest tightened with familiar pain. I knew what it meant to lose a mother, even one I'd barely known. "I understand," I said softly. "I'll do my best for her." Something in Mrs. Thornfield's expression softened. "See that you do. She hasn't spoken since the funeral." The estate emerged from the forest like a castle from a fairy tale, all stone and tall windows, with towers that pierced the low-hanging clouds. It was beautiful and imposing, and utterly intimidating. This was the royal seat of the Shadowpine Pack, home to the Alpha King himself. I'd seen his photograph once, in a newspaper at the library. Dark hair, fierce eyes, a face carved from granite and authority. Elias Thorncrest. They said he was ruthless in protecting his territory, that he'd unified the northern packs through strength and strategy. They said he'd loved his mate with an intensity that had shocked even the wolf community, where such bonds were sacred. They said he'd been destroyed by her death. "You'll meet him eventually," Mrs. Thornfield said as we pulled up to a side entrance. "But he's not been himself. He focuses on pack business, on territory security. His daughter..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Lily needs someone patient, someone kind, someone who won't give up on her." "I won't," I promised, and meant it with everything in me. The staff entrance led to a warm kitchen where several people worked, their movements efficient and practiced. They looked up as we entered, and I felt their assessment, some curious, some skeptical. A few had the telltale grace of wolves even in human form. I was the outsider here, the weak human among predators. "This is Emma," Mrs. Thornfield announced. "She'll be caring for Miss Lily. I expect you all to help her adjust." It wasn't a request. A young woman with kind eyes and dark curls stepped forward. "I'm Sophie. I help with the housekeeping. If you need anything, just ask." Her smile was genuine, and something in my chest loosened slightly. "Thank you," I said. Mrs. Thornfield led me through a maze of corridors, past rooms filled with dark wood furniture and tapestries that depicted wolves running beneath full moons. Everything spoke of history, of power, of a world I didn't belong to. My wet shoes squeaked against the polished floors, and I cringed at every sound. We stopped before a door painted pale blue, so different from the rest of the dark wood that it seemed like a portal to another place. Mrs. Thornfield knocked gently, then opened it. The room beyond was a little girl's sanctuary. Soft colors, toys arranged neatly on shelves, a window seat with cushions overlooking the forest. And there, curled up in that window seat with a book she wasn't reading, was Lily. She was small for 7, with her father's dark hair, but eyes that were lighter, gray, like storm clouds. She wore a simple dress and held herself with a stillness that broke my heart. This wasn't the stillness of contentment. This was the stillness of someone who'd learned that being quiet meant being safe. I knew that stillness intimately. "Lily, sweetheart," Mrs. Thornfield said gently, "this is Emma. She's going to be staying with you, helping take care of you." Those gray eyes lifted to mine, and I saw the walls behind them. Grief and confusion and a loneliness so vast it rivaled my own. She didn't speak, didn't react, just looked at me with the expression of someone who'd learned not to hope for anything. I didn't approach her. Instead, I knelt down where I was, making myself smaller, less threatening. "Hi, Lily," I said softly. "I like your room. Is that your favorite book?" No response, but her fingers tightened slightly on the cover. "I love books too," I continued, keeping my voice gentle. "When I was little, I didn't have many, but there was one about a garden that could only be found if you were truly looking for it. Not with your eyes, but with your heart." I paused. "Maybe sometime you could show me your favorites. Only if you want to." For a moment, nothing. Then, so subtle I almost missed it, Lily's chin dipped in the smallest of nods. Mrs. Thornfield released a breath I hadn't realized she was holding. "I'll show you to your room, Emma. It's connected to Lily's through that door." She pointed to a white door I hadn't noticed. "You'll take your meals with her, help her with her routines. If you need anything, ring for Sophie or come find me." "Thank you," I said, meeting Lily's eyes once more. "I'll be right next door if you need me, okay?" Another tiny nod. My room was simple but comfortable. A bed, a dresser, a small bathroom. Luxury compared to the shared dormitory I'd left behind. I changed into dry clothes and tried to calm my racing heart. This wasn't just a job. This little girl was grieving, trapped in silence by pain too big for her small body to contain. I understood that too. That evening, Sophie brought dinner on a tray, soup and bread for both Lily and me. She showed me how Lily preferred things, the routines that had been established. "She eats in her room mostly," Sophie explained quietly. "His Majesty, he tries. But it's hard for both of them. He works late most nights. He doesn't see her?" I couldn't help the question. Sophie's expression grew sad. He does. But I think it hurts him to look at her. She has her mother's eyes. She squeezed my hand briefly. Just be patient. With both of them. I sat with Lily while she picked at her soup. I ate my own meal slowly, not forcing conversation, just being present. The rain had finally stopped, and the forest beyond her window glistened in the fading light. The woods are beautiful here, I said quietly. I grew up in the city. I'd never seen so many trees until today. Lily's spoon paused. She was listening. I was scared on the bus ride, I admitted. I didn't know what to expect, but then I saw your room and I thought, someone who loves soft colors and keeps their books so neat must be someone worth knowing. Those gray eyes flickered to me, and I saw something behind the walls. Curiosity, maybe, or the faintest spark of connection. We fell into a comfortable silence. I helped her get ready for bed, following Sophie's instructions about the nighttime routine. Lily accepted my help but didn't invite more. That was okay. Trust took time, and I had learned patience in harder schools than this. I was closing the connecting door to give her privacy when I heard it, so soft I almost missed it. Good night. My heart squeezed. I turned back, but Lily had already burrowed under her covers, her dark hair spread across the pillow. Good night, Lily, I whispered. Sweet dreams. I left the door cracked open, just enough to hear if she needed me, and collapsed onto my own bed. Exhaustion pulled at me, but beneath it was something unexpected. Hope. Maybe I could help this little girl. Maybe I could give her what I'd always wished someone had given me. Someone who stayed. I was drifting off when I heard the footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, measured, the tread of someone who carried authority in every movement. They paused outside Lily's door. Through the crack, I could see a shadow, tall and broad-shouldered. The Alpha King, checking on his daughter. I held my breath, not wanting to intrude on the moment. I heard the door open wider, heard him step inside. There was a long silence, and I imagined him standing there, looking at the small figure in the bed, wrestling with grief and guilt, and all the things that came with surviving when someone you loved didn't. I'm sorry, I heard him whisper, his voice rough with emotion. I'm so sorry, little one. Then he was gone, the door clicking shut softly, his footsteps retreating down the hall. I stared at the ceiling, my own eyes burning with unshed tears. This house was full of grief, full of people trying to survive in the aftermath of loss. I might be human, might be weak by their standards, but I understood pain, and maybe, just maybe, that understanding was exactly what this place needed. The rain started again near dawn, a gentle patter that lulled me into deeper sleep. I dreamed of forests and storms, of a little girl who'd forgotten how to speak, and a king who'd forgotten how to hope. I dreamed of finding a way to reach them both. The morning came with pale sunlight filtering through my window, turning the rain-soaked world into something almost magical. I woke to the sound of birds and the distant murmur of voices from somewhere deep in the estate. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then reality settled over me like a familiar weight. I was in the Shadowpine estate. I was responsible for a grieving child. And somewhere in this vast house was an Alpha King who carried his own grief like armor. I dressed quickly in simple clothes, dark pants and a soft sweater, and knocked gently on the connecting door. Lily, may I come in? Silence, but not rejection. I opened the door to find her already awake, sitting at a small desk by the window with colored pencils scattered before her. She was drawing something, her small hand moving with careful precision. Good morning, I said softly, approaching slowly. Did you sleep well? She glanced up at me, those storm-gray eyes assessing, then returned to her drawing. I could see it now. A garden, full of flowers in impossible colors, purple trees and blue grass, and a sun that shone silver instead of gold. A child's imagination, still alive beneath the grief. That's beautiful, I said honestly. Is it a magic garden? Her hand paused. Then, to my surprise, she nodded. Progress. Small but real. Sophie arrived with breakfast, oatmeal with berries and honey, warm milk, fresh bread. She smiled at me encouragingly. Mrs. Thornfield wants to see you after Lily's eaten, she said quietly. Just to go over some things. I can stay with her if you need. Thank you. I helped Lily to the small table where Sophie had set the tray. The little girl ate slowly, methodically, her eyes distant. I wondered what she was thinking, what memories played behind that carefully blank expression. I ate my own breakfast, the food better than anything I'd had in months, maybe years. The orphanage had fed us, but never like this. Never with fresh berries and real honey. I tried not to feel guilty for enjoying it. "Lily," I said gently, "after breakfast, would you like to show me the gardens? The real ones, I mean. If it's not too wet." She considered this, her small face serious. Then she nodded again, and something that might have been eagerness flickered in her eyes before disappearing behind her walls. Mrs. Thornfield's office was on the ground floor, a neat space filled with ledgers and schedules. She looked up when I entered, her expression businesslike but not unkind. "How was your first night?" "Good," I said. She's wonderful. Quiet, but I think she's starting to trust me. That's more than most have managed." Mrs. Thornfield leaned back in her chair. "I need you to understand something, Emma. This household is complex. We have pack members who live on the estate, visiting alphas from allied territories, council meetings. His Majesty's schedule is demanding, and his temper has been," she paused, choosing words carefully, "difficult since the Queen's passing. I understand. Do you?" Her gaze was sharp. "You're human. Some wolves will see that as weakness, some will test you. And if you make a mistake with Lily, if you hurt her in any way—" She didn't finish the threat. She didn't need to. "I would never hurt her," I said firmly. "I know what it's like to grow up feeling invisible, unwanted. I won't let her feel that way." Something in Mrs. Thornfield's expression shifted. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "See that you don't. Now, His Majesty has requested to meet you this afternoon, 2:00 in his study. Don't be late." My stomach dropped. "He wants to meet me? You're caring for his daughter. Of course he wants to meet you." She softened slightly. "Don't worry too much. Just be honest. Be yourself. He values truth above all else." I spent the morning with Lily in the gardens, which were indeed magical despite the lingering dampness. Stone paths wound between beds of late autumn flowers, chrysanthemums and asters in deep purples and golds. She led me to a small fountain where stone wolves seemed to drink from an eternal pool, their eyes set with gems that caught the light. "This is special," I said, kneeling beside her. "Did your mother bring you here?" Lily's face crumpled for just a moment, and I immediately regretted the question. But then she nodded and pointed to a bench nearby, white stone, with an inscription I couldn't read from this distance. We walked over together. The words were carved in elegant script. "For my beloved Celeste, who taught me that strength and gentleness are not opposites but partners. Forever yours, E.T." My throat tightened. Elias Thorncrest had loved his wife enough to carve her memory in stone, to place it in this garden where his daughter would see it and remember. The grief in this house suddenly made more sense. It wasn't just loss. It was the loss of someone who'd balanced the darkness with light. Lily touched the inscription with small fingers, tracing the letters. Then she looked up at me, and I saw the question in her eyes. "Did you lose someone too?" "My mother left me at an orphanage when I was very small," I said quietly, sitting on the bench and feeling the cold stone through my clothes. I don't remember her face, but I used to imagine she had good reasons, that maybe she loved me but couldn't keep me safe. I don't know if that's true, but it helped to believe it. Lily climbed up beside me, so close our shoulders almost touched. We sat there in silence, two people who understood absence, who knew the shape of the holes left behind. "You know what I learned?" I continued softly. "That the people who stay matter more than the people who leave. And I'm going to stay, Lily. As long as you need me, I'll be here." She leaned against me then, just slightly, and I felt the trust in that small gesture like a gift. I put my arm around her carefully, and she didn't pull away. We stayed like that until Sophie came to find us, calling that lunch was ready. Lily's hand found mine as we walked back to the house, and I held it gently, marveling at how such a small thing could feel so significant. Lunch was in the nursery, sandwiches and soup and apple slices. Lily ate better than she had at breakfast, and even smiled slightly when I made a clumsy attempt to cut my sandwich into the shape of a flower like hers. It looked more like a blob, but she seemed to appreciate the effort. At 1:30, I changed into the only decent dress I owned. Simple, gray, nothing special, and tried to calm my racing heart. Sophie helped me pin my pale hair back neatly. "You look fine," she assured me. "Just remember, he's grieving too. Beneath all the alpha posturing, he's just a father who misses his wife and doesn't know how to help his daughter." "Right," I said, not feeling comforted at all. "Just a grieving alpha king. Nothing intimidating about that." Sophie laughed. "You'll be fine. You're good with Lily. He'll see that." The study was in the east wing, behind massive oak doors that seemed designed to intimidate. I knocked at precisely 2:00, my palms sweating. "Enter." The voice was deep, commanding, with an edge that suggested its owner was used to immediate obedience. I pushed open the door. The study was all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk positioned before tall windows. Behind that desk sat Elias Thorncrest, and the photographs I'd seen had not prepared me for the reality of him. He was perhaps in his mid-30s, tall even, sitting down, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that seemed to fill the room. Dark hair, slightly too long, framed a face that was handsome in a harsh way. All sharp angles and strong bones. But it was his eyes that caught me, amber, burning with intelligence and pain, and a barely controlled intensity that made my breath catch. He looked at me, and I felt pinned by that gaze. Assessed and catalogued in seconds. "You're the nanny," he said. Not a question. "Yes, Your Majesty. Emma Whitfield." I managed a small curtsy, hoping I was doing it right. "Sit." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. I sat, trying not to fidget, hyper-aware of how plain I must look in this elegant room, how completely out of place. He continued studying me with an expression I couldn't read, searching for something, perhaps, or trying to understand what Mrs. Thornfield had been thinking hiring someone like me. "You're young," he finally said. "I'm 23, sir. And human." "Yes, sir. Mrs. Thornfield tells me my daughter responded to you." His voice was carefully neutral, but I heard the hope beneath it, quickly suppressed. "That she spoke to you. Just one word," I said honestly. "Good night." But she's communicating in other ways, nodding, showing me things. I think she just needs time. Time. He said it like it was a foreign concept. "She hasn't spoken in 6 months. The pack healers say there's nothing physically wrong. The counselors from the city said she's traumatized, that she'll speak when she's ready, but what if she's never ready? What if I've already lost her too?" The raw pain in those last words broke through his controlled facade, and I saw him for what he truly was, not a king, not an alpha, but a father terrified of failing his child. "You haven't lost her," I said quietly. "She's still here, still feeling, still thinking. She's just protecting herself the only way she knows how, by being quiet, being small. She doesn't have to face how big the pain is." His eyes locked onto mine. "You speak as if you understand." "I do understand. Not losing a parent the way she did, but I know what it's like to feel invisible. To think that if you make yourself small enough, maybe the hurt won't find you." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition of a kindred spirit. "And did it work? Making yourself small?" "No," I admitted. "The hurt always finds you, but having someone who sees you anyway, who doesn't give up on you, that helps. That makes you feel less alone." He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the desk, the only sign of his agitation. "She showed you the garden," he said finally. "The fountain. Mrs. Thornfield told me." "She did. It's beautiful. Your wife must have been remarkable." Pain flickered across his face, quickly masked. "She was everything I wasn't. Gentle, patient, diplomatic. She balanced me. Without her..." He stopped, jaw tightening. "Without her, I'm all edges and anger. Lily needs softness, and I don't know how to give that to her anymore." "Maybe you don't have to be soft," I said carefully. "Maybe you just have to be present. She knows you're grieving too. Children understand more than we think. Maybe she just needs to know it's okay to hurt, that you're both allowed to miss her mother together." He stared at me, and I worried I'd overstepped, that I'd said too much. I was nobody, a human girl with no credentials beyond a kind heart and a childhood full of holes. Who was I to advise an alpha king on his own daughter? But then he nodded slowly. "You're either very wise or very naive," he said. "I haven't decided which. Maybe both," I offered, and was rewarded with the ghost of a smile. "Take care of her," he said, and it sounded like both a command and a plea. "Help her find her voice again. I'll try to be around more. To be present, as you said. She'd like that," I said softly. He dismissed me with a nod, already turning back to the papers on his desk. A king returning to his duties, the brief vulnerability locked away again. But as I reached the door, his voice stopped me. "Emma." I turned back. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For seeing her. For seeing us." My throat was too tight to speak, so I just nodded and slipped out the door. I found Lily in her room, coloring at her desk. When I entered, she looked up and tilted her head in question. "I met your father," I said, sitting on the floor beside her. "He loves you very much. You know that, right?" She nodded, but her eyes were sad. A child's understanding that love sometimes isn't enough to fix everything. "He's going to try to spend more time with you," I continued, "and I'll be here too. Both of us, trying our best. Is that okay?" Another nod, firmer this time. That evening, as I tucked her into bed, Lily's small hand caught my sleeve. She pointed to the book on her nightstand, a story about a girl and a wolf who became friends despite the world saying they shouldn't. "You want me to read it?" I asked. She nodded eagerly, the most animation I'd seen from her. I settled beside her and began reading, doing different voices for the characters, getting invested in the story. Halfway through, I felt her relax against me, her breathing evening out. By the last page, she was asleep. I closed the book carefully and was about to leave when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Through the cracked door, I saw him, Elias, standing in the shadows, watching his daughter sleep with an expression of such longing and pain it made my chest ache. Our eyes met across the dim room. For a moment, we were just two people bound by care for the same small girl, both of us trying to help her heal while carrying our own wounds. Then he turned and walked away, silent as a shadow. I returned to my room and lay awake for a long time, thinking about broken families and the strange ways people tried to put themselves back together. Outside, an owl called in the darkness, and somewhere in the forest, wolves howled their ancient songs. I was beginning to understand that this place, these people, they were all trying to survive loss the best they knew how, and somehow, impossibly, I'd been given the chance to help them. I didn't know if I was strong enough, wise enough, good enough, but I was going to try. 3 weeks passed like pages turning in a beloved book, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum as the story found its rhythm. Lily began to emerge from her silence in small, precious ways. She still didn't speak with words, but her drawings became more detailed, more expressive. She started leaving them on my pillow. A girl with pale hair holding hands with a smaller girl with dark hair, both of them smiling. A house with warm yellow windows. A garden where wolves and humans walked together without fear. Each drawing felt like a confession, a glimpse into the hope she was afraid to voice aloud. The household staff accepted me gradually, their initial skepticism softening into cautious friendship. Sophie became my guide through the complex social dynamics of the estate, explaining which pack members were friendly and which still saw my humanity as an insult to their world. The cook, a broad-shouldered woman named Helena, started saving special treats for Lily and me. Cookies shaped like stars, bread still warm from the oven. "You're good for the girl," Helena told me one morning, pressing a mug of hot chocolate into my hands. "She smiles more. We hear her laugh sometimes through the walls. That sound, we thought we'd never hear it again. She's healing," I said softly. "Slowly, but she is." "And him?" Helena's eyes were knowing. "Is he healing too?" I thought about that. Elias had kept his promise. He took breakfast with Lily twice a week now, stiff and uncertain but trying. I'd watch them from the doorway, my heart aching at how carefully they moved around each other, both terrified of saying the wrong thing, of breaking something already so fragile. But there were moments. Small ones. Last week, Lily had shown him one of her drawings, a wolf standing protectively over a small girl. His hand had trembled as he held it, and I'd seen him blink rapidly, fighting tears he wouldn't allow himself to shed in front of her. "He's trying," I said finally. "That's something." The autumn deepened into early winter. The gardens took on a stark beauty, all bare branches and frost-touched grass. Lily and I developed our routines. Lessons in the morning. She was brilliant, reading far above her level. Walks in the afternoon. Stories before bed. She began to request specific books, pointing at the ones she wanted. And once, when I did a particularly silly voice for a grumpy troll character, she'd laughed out loud, a sound so pure and unexpected that I'd nearly cried. But the nightmares still came. I'd wake to the sound of crying through the connecting door, soft and muffled, like she was trying not to disturb anyone even in her sleep. I'd go to her, sit beside her bed, smooth her dark hair back from her face. "It's okay," I'd whisper. "You're safe. I'm here." She'd cling to me, her small body shaking, and I'd hold her until the fear passed and sleep returned. In the morning, we never spoke of it. She'd just press close to me at breakfast, needing the reassurance of physical presence. It was during one of these nighttime vigils that everything changed. I'd just gotten Lily back to sleep, her breathing finally even, when I heard voices in the hallway. Low, urgent, wrong for the late hour. My instincts prickled with warning. I moved to the door, opening it just a crack. Mrs. Thornfield stood there, with two pack members I recognized from the security detail. Their faces were grim. "We need to inform His Majesty," one of them was saying. "There's been a breach at the northern border. 3 wolves dead, torn apart. It looks like—" "Not here," Mrs. Thornfield hissed, her eyes flicking toward Lily's door. Then she saw me, and her expression tightened. "Emma, is Lily asleep?" "Yes. What's happening?" "Nothing you need to worry about. Stay with her. Don't open this door for anyone except myself or His Majesty. Do you understand?" Fear coiled in my stomach. "Is there danger?" "Just do as I say." She was already moving down the hallway, the security detail following. I closed the door and locked it, my heart pounding. Whatever was happening, it was serious enough to frighten even Mrs. Thornfield, who never seemed rattled by anything. I checked on Lily. Still sleeping, oblivious to the threat lurking beyond these walls. I settled into the chair beside her bed, watching the shadows, listening for any sound that didn't belong. The hours crawled past. Around 3 a.m, I heard footsteps running, shouting in the distance, then silence, heavy and ominous. I stayed awake, my body tense with alertness I didn't know I possessed. Dawn came gray and cold. Lily woke to find me still in the chair, and her small face creased with worry. She pointed at me, then at the bed, asking why I hadn't slept. "Just making sure you were safe," I said, forcing a smile. "Nothing to worry about." But she wasn't fooled. Children never are. Sophie arrived with breakfast later than usual, her face pale and her hands shaking as she set down the tray. "Mrs. Thornfield says to keep Lily inside today," she said quietly. "No gardens, no wandering." "Sophie, what's going on?" She glanced at Lily, then back at me. "There was an attack last night, rogues from outside the territory. They're saying—" She lowered her voice to barely a whisper. "They're saying it might have been targeted. That someone's testing our defenses." My blood ran cold. "Are we safe here?" "The estate is locked down, extra guards everywhere. His Majesty is—" She paused. "He's not in a good state. The attack happened near where the Queen died. It's brought everything back." Oh God. No wonder Mrs. Thornfield had been so shaken. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. After Sophie left, I tried to maintain normalcy for Lily's sake. We read books, played quiet games, drew pictures. But I could feel her anxiety. She knew something was wrong, could probably sense the tension thrumming through the entire household. Around noon, there was a sharp knock on the door. "Emma, it's me," Mrs. Thornfield's voice. I opened it to find her looking exhausted, worry lines deep around her eyes. "His Majesty wants to see Lily. In his study. Now. Is he all right?" "Just bring her, please." I helped Lily into a dress, brushed her hair, tried to project calm I didn't feel. "Your father wants to see you," I said gently. "Is that okay?" She nodded, but her hand found mine and held tight. We walked through hallways that felt different now. The guards more visible, their weapons less concealed. Pack members we passed looked tense, their conversations stopping when they saw us. The whole estate felt like it was holding its breath. The study door was ajar. I knocked softly and heard that familiar voice. Rougher now, strained. "Come in." Elias stood by the window, his back to us, hands clasped behind him so tightly his knuckles were white. He wore dark clothes, and even from behind I could see the rigid set of his shoulders, a man barely maintaining control. "Lily," he said without turning. "Come here, please." She hesitated, looking up at me with uncertain eyes. I squeezed her hand and walked with her across the room. We stopped a few feet from him, waiting. He finally turned, and I had to suppress a gasp. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes red-rimmed and burning with barely suppressed rage. But when his gaze landed on Lily, the rage cracked, revealing the fear beneath. "There are threats to our territory," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "Threats I'm going to eliminate. But until I do, I need to know you're safe. Protected." Lily nodded solemnly, understanding more than he probably realized. "I'm going to be away more," he continued, and pain flickered across his face. "Out with the security teams, hunting the ones responsible. Mrs. Thornfield will oversee the household. But Emma?" His eyes shifted to me. "Emma will stay with you at all times. She doesn't leave your side. Do you understand?" Another nod. He knelt then, bringing himself to her level, and I saw his hands shake as he reached for her. "I can't lose you," he said, his voice breaking. "I can't. You're all I have left of her. All I have left of anything good. I need you to be safe." Lily threw herself into his arms, and he caught her, holding her so tightly I worried he might hurt her. But she didn't protest. She just wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on. I turned away, giving them privacy, but his voice stopped me. "Emma, stay." I turned back, confused. "I'm trusting you with the most precious thing in my world," he said, his amber eyes meeting mine over Lily's dark hair. "If anything happens to her, nothing will," I said firmly. "I promise you, I'll keep her safe. You're human," he said, not cruelly but stating fact. "Fragile. If rogues breach the estate, you won't be able to fight them. Then I'll hide her. I'll run with her. I'll do whatever it takes." My voice was steady, certain. "I won't let anyone hurt her." He studied me for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of trust. "I believe you," he said quietly. Lily pulled back from him, and I saw tears on her cheeks, the first I'd seen her cry. She touched his face gently, and he closed his eyes as if her touch caused him pain. "I love you, little one," he whispered. "So much. I'm sorry I haven't been better at showing it." She pressed her forehead to his, a gesture so tender my own eyes burned with tears. Then he was standing, his mask of control sliding back into place. "Take her back to her room. Mrs. Thornfield will brief you on security protocols. If there's any trouble, any at all, you ring the bell beside Lily's bed. Guards will come immediately." "Yes, Your Majesty." He looked at me one more time, and in his eyes I saw a silent plea. "Keep her safe. Keep her whole. Don't let me lose her, too." I nodded, understanding. Back in Lily's room, I held her as she cried, silent tears that spoke of fear and confusion and love for a father who was breaking under the weight of too much loss. I didn't try to stop her tears or tell her everything would be fine. I just held her and let her feel what she needed to feel. That night, Mrs. Thornfield came herself to review the security measures: panic buttons, safe rooms, evacuation routes. She showed me where weapons were hidden, just in case, though you probably couldn't use them, and made me memorize the faces of the wolves assigned to our protection. "The Alpha is out hunting," she said quietly. "He won't stop until he finds who's responsible. But Emma, you need to understand. This estate, this pack, we've been targets before. The Queen's death wasn't an accident. It was an assassination, and we never found who ordered it. If these attacks are connected, they want Lily," I said, understanding dawning with horrible clarity. Mrs. Thornfield's silence was answer enough. "Then they'll have to go through me," I said firmly. She smiled sadly. "You're brave, girl. Foolish, maybe, but brave." The days that followed were tense. Elias didn't return, and rumors spread through the estate like wildfire. He'd found the rogues. He was tracking them north. There'd been battles. Pack members came and went at all hours, grim-faced and speaking in hushed tones. I kept Lily inside, tried to maintain routine and normalcy. We baked cookies with Helena, learning to knead dough and shape it into stars and moons. We organized her books by color, creating a rainbow on her shelves. We made up stories about the wolves in the forest, giving them names and personalities and happy endings. But at night, when Lily was asleep, I'd stand by her window and watch the dark forest, wondering what was out there, wondering if whoever wanted to hurt this family would come here, would try to take this little girl from the father who already grieved too much. On the 5th night of Elias's absence, I was dozing in the chair beside Lily's bed when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Scratching, soft and deliberate, at the window. My eyes flew open. The room was dark except for the small nightlight by Lily's bed. I looked at the window and saw a shadow there, too large to be a bird, too deliberate to be a branch. Someone was trying to get in. My heart hammered against my ribs as I moved silently to Lily's bed, gently shaking her awake. Her eyes opened, confused and frightened. I put a finger to my lips, then pointed to the window. She saw the shadow and went rigid with fear. I grabbed her hand and we moved toward the connecting door to my room, where the panic button was, but the scratching stopped, and I heard voices outside in the hallway. Low, unfamiliar. We were trapped. I pulled Lily into the closet, the largest piece of furniture in the room, and closed the door from the inside. In the darkness, I held her close, my mind racing. The panic button was in my room. The door to the hallway was locked, but not enough to keep out a determined wolf. We had minutes, maybe less. Lily's hand found mine in the darkness, squeezing tight. I squeezed back, trying to send reassurance I didn't feel. Then I heard it, the window sliding open. Someone was inside the room. The closet was dark and cramped, smelling of cedar and lavender. Lily's small body pressed against mine, trembling. I could hear her heart racing, or maybe it was my own, pounding so hard I thought it might give us away. Footsteps crossed the room, heavy, deliberate. Not trying to be quiet anymore. "I know you're in here, little princess," a male voice said, low and mocking. "Come out, and this will be easier for everyone." Lily's fingernails dug into my arm. I held her tighter, my mind spinning through impossible options. The panic button was in my room, unreachable. The hallway door was locked, but I'd heard voices outside, accomplices waiting. We were cornered. "Think, Emma. Think." The footsteps came closer to the closet. I could see shadow movement through the crack in the door. A large shape, prowling. My breath caught in my throat. Then, through the window he'd entered, I heard a sound that made my blood surge with hope. A howl. Deep, furious, unmistakable. Not the rogues. Pack wolves. Our guards. The intruder cursed viciously. "They're early. Move." He barked to someone outside, and suddenly there were multiple sets of footsteps rushing, chaos erupting. The closet door flew open, and I screamed. I couldn't help it. But the man who stood there wasn't looking at us anymore. He was staring at the window, his face twisted with rage and fear. He was young, maybe 30, with scars across his jaw and eyes that gleamed yellow even in human form. "You," he snarled, looking back at us. "You're coming with—" He didn't finish. Something massive and dark crashed through the window in an explosion of glass and wood. A wolf, black as midnight, and easily twice the size of any normal animal. Its eyes burned amber gold, and the rage in them was absolutely primal. Elias. He'd come home. The rogue shifted instantly, bones cracking and reforming, and suddenly a gray wolf stood where the man had been. But he was smaller, weaker. He knew it. I saw the moment he decided to run rather than fight. He lunged for the hallway door, but Elias was faster. The black wolf caught him mid-leap, jaws closing around the rogue's throat. The sound that followed was horrible. Snarling, thrashing. The wet sounds of violence I'd never wanted to hear. I covered Lily's eyes, pressing her face into my shoulder. "Don't look," I whispered. "Don't look, sweetheart." The sound stopped abruptly, then footsteps, human ones, running down the hallway. Voices shouting, more pack members securing the area. I stayed frozen in the closet, holding Lily, not sure if the danger had passed or if more threats lurked. My whole body shook with adrenaline and terror. Then a voice, rough and barely human. "Emma, it's safe. Come out." I opened my eyes to see Elias standing there, human again, wearing torn pants that had survived the shift. His chest was bare, streaked with blood. Not his own, I realized with nauseating clarity. His eyes were still more wolf than man, burning with fury barely contained. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "Either of you?" No, I managed. "We're okay." He closed his eyes briefly, and I saw his hands shaking, not with weakness, but with the effort of maintaining human form when the wolf inside wanted to hunt, to kill, to protect. "Stay here," he said. "Don't leave this room until Mrs. Thornfield comes for you." He turned to leave, but Lily made a sound, small, broken, desperate. She pulled free from me and ran to him, throwing her small arms around his legs and holding on like she'd never let go. Elias went absolutely still. Then, slowly, carefully, he knelt and gathered her up, cradling her against his chest. "I'm here," he murmured into her hair. "I've got you. You're safe, little one. I promise, you're safe." Over her head, his eyes met mine. The gratitude there was so raw, so intense, it stole my breath. "You kept her safe," he said hoarsely. "You kept your promise." "I told you I would," I whispered. Mrs. Thornfield appeared in the doorway, her face pale but composed. "Your Majesty, the estate is secure. We caught 2 others attempting to breach the south wing. All threats have been neutralized." "Good." He stood, still holding Lily. "Emma stays with her. Move them to the royal suite, my room. Post guards at every entrance. No one goes in or out without my explicit permission. Your Majesty, the council will want—" "I don't care what the council wants." His voice cracked like thunder, making everyone in the hallway flinch. "My daughter was nearly taken from her own bed. Tell the council they can wait until I'm satisfied this estate is impenetrable." "Yes, Your Majesty." He looked at me. "Pack what you both need. You're moving immediately." The royal suite was on the top floor, in the oldest part of the estate. The rooms were vast, a bedroom with a bed large enough for 5 people, a sitting area with a fireplace, an adjoining room that was quickly converted into a space for Lily. Windows overlooked the forest on one side, and the mountains on the other, and I counted 6 guards posted just in the hallway outside. I helped Lily settle while Elias spoke with his security team. She was silent again, her brief moment of reaching for her father used up, leaving her retreated back into the safety of quiet. But she wouldn't let go of my hand, holding on like I was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to hurt her. When the security team finally left, Elias collapsed into a chair by the fireplace, his head in his hands. He looked exhausted, not just physically, but soul-deep weariness that came from carrying too much for too long. "She should sleep," he said without looking up. "Both of you should." "What about you?" I asked quietly. "I'll keep watch. You need rest too." "I'll rest when I'm dead." The bitterness in his voice was sharp enough to cut. "They got inside, Emma. Inside my home. Into her room. If I hadn't returned when I did—" He couldn't finish, his hands clenching into fists. I settled Lily into the bed in her new room, staying with her until her breathing evened into sleep. Then I returned to find Elias exactly where I'd left him, staring into the fire like it might hold answers. "It's not your fault," I said softly, sitting in the chair across from him. "Whose fault is it then?" His amber eyes lifted to mine, blazing with self-recrimination. "I'm the Alpha King. This is my territory, my pack, my daughter. Keeping her safe is my responsibility. And I failed. You killed the threat. You saved her. This time." He leaned back, the firelight casting shadows across his face. "But there will be more. There are always more. Wolves who think they can use my daughter as leverage, who see her as a weakness to exploit. And they're right. She is my weakness, the only one that matters." "She's not a weakness," I said firmly. "She's your reason to be strong." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You speak like someone who's never had anything to lose." "I speak like someone who's never had anything to begin with," I corrected. "So I know that having something, someone, to protect, that's not weakness. That's the whole point of being strong in the first place. He studied me for a long moment, and I felt exposed under that gaze, like he could see all the lonely years and hard lessons that had shaped me. "You're not what I expected," he said finally. "What did you expect?" "Someone temporary. Someone who would leave when things got difficult." He paused. "Someone who would run when they saw the violence we're capable of." "I'm not running," I said quietly. "And I saw what you're capable of tonight. You protected your daughter. That's all that matters to me. I killed someone in front of you. I tore out his throat while you watched. You stopped him from taking Lily." I met his eyes steadily. "If you're expecting me to be horrified, you'll be disappointed. I'm grateful." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, or maybe relief. Most humans would be terrified. "I was terrified," I admitted. "But not of you. For Lily, yes. Of the rogues, yes, but you? You're her father. You're supposed to be fierce. You're supposed to be willing to do terrible things to keep her safe. That's not monstrous. That's love." He stared at me, and I wondered if I'd said too much. Crossed some invisible line, but then his expression softened. Just slightly, and he nodded. "You really do understand," he said quietly. We sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling between us. I should have been exhausted, but adrenaline still buzzed through my veins, keeping sleep at bay. "Tell me about her," I said softly. "Your wife, if you want to." He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Celeste was sunshine in wolf form, patient where I was impatient, kind where I was harsh. She could walk into a room full of hostile alphas and have them eating out of her hand within minutes, not through manipulation, but through genuine warmth. She made people want to be better. His voice was rough with grief, but also warm with memory. She loved flowers. That garden where you took Lily, she designed every inch of it, spent hours out there even when she was pregnant and could barely walk. She said growing things reminded her that beauty could exist even in hard soil. "She sounds wonderful," I said. She was. He closed his eyes. And when she died, she took all the light with her, left me stumbling in the dark, trying to remember how to be a person instead of just an alpha, trying to be a father to a daughter who looks at me with her mother's eyes and makes my chest hurt every time. "Lily loves you," I said gently. "She's scared and grieving, but she loves you. I see it in how she draws you, in how she reaches for you when she's frightened, but she doesn't speak to me. She speaks to you. One word, you said. But to me, nothing. Just silence." "She's afraid," I said. "Not of you, but of losing you too. If she doesn't talk, doesn't need too much, maybe you'll stay. Maybe she won't be too much trouble for you to keep loving." He looked at me sharply. That's how you thought. As a child." I nodded. I thought if I was quiet enough, small enough, good enough, maybe someone would choose me, keep me. It never worked. There were always more charming kids, more normal kids. But I kept trying anyway. That's heartbreaking," he said quietly. "It's reality for a lot of us, the unwanted ones." I shrugged, trying to keep my voice light. "But Lily has what I never did, a parent who loves her desperately. She just needs to feel safe enough to believe it won't be taken away. And how do I do that? You're already doing it. You came home. You fought for her. You moved us here, surrounded us with guards. You're showing her that her safety matters more than anything." I leaned forward. "Now you just have to show her that her voice matters too, that she can cry, can rage, can speak her mother's name without it destroying you." He absorbed this, his jaw working. "You're right," he said finally. "God help me. You're right. I've been so afraid of my own grief that I've made her afraid of hers. Grief isn't the enemy," I said softly. "Silence is." We talked for hours that night, long after the fire burned low. He told me about Celeste, about the early days of their bond, about Lily as a baby. Curious and fearless, always laughing. I told him about the orphanage, about learning to read by sneaking into the library, about the loneliness that had shaped me into someone who understood invisible children. It was the most honest conversation I'd ever had with anyone, made possible by darkness and exhaustion, and the strange intimacy of shared crisis. When dawn finally painted the windows gray, He stood. You should sleep. Really sleep. I'll watch over her. Will you sleep too? Eventually. He moved toward Lily's room, pausing at the doorway. Emma, thank you. For tonight. For every night. For seeing what I was too blind to see. That's what I'm here for, I said softly. He nodded and disappeared into his daughter's room, and I heard him settle into the chair beside her bed. A father keeping vigil. Making up for lost time. I collapsed onto the sofa in the sitting room, not wanting to presume to use the massive bed in the main chamber. Sleep took me under quickly, and for once, I didn't dream of being unwanted. I dreamed instead of a little girl finding her voice, and a broken king learning to put himself back together. The days that followed brought change like a tide. The attack had shaken the entire pack, forcing Elias to acknowledge that isolation wasn't protection, it was vulnerability. He called in allied packs, strengthened border patrols, conducted investigations into how the rogues had gotten so close. And through it all, he stayed close to Lily. He took meals with her daily now, sat with her during lessons, read her bedtime stories in a deep voice that stumbled over the silly parts, but always got through to the end. She watched him with cautious hope, like a flower turning toward uncertain sun. 1 week after the attack, I woke to find both of them gone from the suite. Panic seized me until Sophie arrived with breakfast and a note. We're in the garden. Join us when you're ready. E.T. I dressed quickly and hurried outside, my heart still racing with residual fear, but when I found them at the fountain, all my worry evaporated. Elias sat on the white stone bench, and Lily sat beside him, showing him a book. As I approached, I heard his voice, soft and raw. Your mother loved this story. She read it to you every night when you were small. Lily nodded, then did something that stopped me in my tracks. She opened her mouth, and in a voice rusty from disuse but clear as bells, she said, Read it, Papa, please. Elias went absolutely still. Then his face crumpled, tears spilling down his cheeks, the first I'd seen him shed. Oh, little one, he choked out, pulling her close. I've missed your voice so much. She held him while he cried, this fierce alpha king who'd forgotten how to be vulnerable, and I saw the beginning of their healing in that embrace. When he finally composed himself, he saw me standing there and smiled. A real smile, bright and transformative. She spoke, he said, wonderment in his voice. I heard, I said, my own eyes burning with happy tears. Because of you, he said. Because you showed us both that it was safe. I shook my head. Because you were both ready. Lily looked at me then, and mouthed 2 words I could read clearly. Thank you. I sat with them while Elias read the story, his voice growing stronger with each page, and watched the morning light turn the fountain water to gold. For the first time since arriving, I felt like I'd found something I'd been searching for my whole life. Not just a place, but a purpose. Not just a job, but a family that needed me as much as I needed them. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this was just the beginning. Winter came to Shadowpine like a whispered promise, transforming the estate into something from a fairy tale. Snow draped the forest in silence, and icicles hung from the eaves like crystal daggers catching the light. Inside, fires burned constantly, filling the halls with warmth and the scent of pine and wood smoke. Lily's voice returned gradually, like spring emerging from frozen ground. At first, just single words. Yes, please, Papa, but within weeks, full sentences. She talked about her mother now, sometimes with tears but always with love, and Elias listened with patient attention, no longer flinching from the memories. They were healing together, father and daughter, finding their way back to each other through the grief that had separated them. And I watched, grateful to have been part of their journey, even as I wondered where my own path would lead once they no longer needed me. It was a Thursday afternoon, 3 months after the attack, when everything shifted again. I was in the library with Lily, helping her with a reading assignment, when Mrs. Thornfield appeared at the door. Emma, His Majesty would like to see you in his study. Lily can stay with Sophie. My stomach clenched with immediate worry. Had I done something wrong? Was this the moment they told me I was no longer needed? Lily must have sensed my anxiety because she grabbed my hand. It's okay, Emma, she said softly. She'd become quite talkative now, making up for months of silence. Papa probably just wants to talk. I squeezed her hand and followed Mrs. Thornfield through the halls. my mind racing. The older woman's expression gave nothing away, though I thought I caught the hint of a smile at the corners of her mouth. Elias stood by the window when I entered, his back to me, hands clasped behind him, a familiar pose now. He'd filled out again over the past months. The gauntness of grief replaced by the solid strength of someone learning to live again. His dark hair had been trimmed, and he wore formal clothes that spoke of important business. "You wanted to see me, Your Majesty." He turned, and I was struck again by how much he'd changed. The haunted look had faded from his amber eyes, replaced by something calmer, steadier. He almost looked like the king in those early photographs, confident, powerful, but with new depth carved by sorrow, survived. "I did. Please, sit." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I sat, trying not to fidget, hyper-aware of how my simple dress and practical boots contrasted with the elegance of this room. I would never quite fit here, I thought. I would always be the human girl playing at belonging. "I want to discuss your position," he said, and my heart sank. Here it was, the dismissal I'd been dreading. "I understand," I said quickly. "Lily's doing so much better now. She doesn't need a nanny anymore, not really. I can help you find someone more qualified, someone with actual credentials. Emma." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let me finish." I closed my mouth, cheeks burning. "You're right that Lily doesn't need a nanny anymore," he continued. "She needs a tutor, a companion, someone to help her navigate the complexities of growing up as the daughter of an alpha king. Someone who understands that strength comes in many forms, not just physical power." He paused. "She needs you, specifically. Not someone more qualified. You." Relief flooded through me so strongly I felt dizzy. I'd be honored to stay. Good. Because there's more." He moved around the desk, leaning against it, closer to me now. "The council has been insistent that I remarry, that Lily needs a mother figure, that the pack needs a queen. They've paraded eligible she-wolves through here for weeks, each one perfect on paper." My chest tightened painfully. Of course. He was a king. He needed a queen. Someone strong. Someone wolf. Someone who belonged in his world. "Congratulations," I managed, though the word tasted like ash. His eyebrows rose. "For what?" "For finding someone?" I was confused now. "I haven't found anyone," he said. "Because I've been looking in the wrong places." He was watching me intently now, and something in his gaze made my breath catch. Or rather, I haven't been looking at all. Because the person Lily needs, the person He stopped, jaw tightening. "This is harder than diplomatic negotiations." "I don't understand," I whispered. He moved closer, kneeling so we were at eye level, an alpha king kneeling before a human nobody. "Emma, over these past months, you've become essential to this household. To Lily, certainly, but also to me. You challenge me, call me out when I'm being blind, make me want to be better. You see past the crown and the power to the man underneath, the one who's still learning how to live with loss." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Your Majesty." "Elias," he interrupted. "Please, just Elias." "Elias," I breathed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that somewhere between you hiding my daughter in a closet and reading her bedtime stories, between you calling me out on my grief and making me laugh for the first time in months, I fell in love with you." His voice was rough with emotion. "I'm saying that you've already been more of a mother to Lily than anyone else could be. That you've helped me heal in ways I didn't think possible. I'm saying that I want you to stay, not as an employee, but as my partner, my equal, my queen." The world tilted. That's impossible. I'm human. I'm nobody. The pack would never accept. The pack accepts who I tell them to accept," he said firmly. "And more importantly, they've already accepted you. The staff loves you. The guards respect you. The children in the village ask about the kind lady with pale hair who helped Lily find her voice. You've earned your place here through compassion and courage, not through bloodline or status." "But I can't give you what a wolf could," I protested weakly. "I'm not strong. I can't shift. I can't—" "You're the strongest person I know," he interrupted. "You survived abandonment and loneliness, and still chose kindness. You faced down rogues with nothing but determination to protect my daughter. You walked into a world of predators, and made it better by being in it. His hand found mine, warm and solid. I don't want a wolf queen who fits the mold. I want you, Emma Whitfield, exactly as you are. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I love her, I whispered. I love Lily so much. And I couldn't say it. Couldn't believe it was real. And? His amber eyes were bright with hope and vulnerability. And I love you too, I admitted, the words tumbling out like a confession. I tried not to. I told myself it was impossible, that I was being foolish. But watching you with her, seeing you fight and heal, and choose love over isolation, how could I not love you? He smiled then, brilliant and transformative, and leaned forward to rest his forehead against mine. Then say yes. Not because I'm a king, or because Lily needs you, though both those things are true. Say yes because you want this. Because you want us. Yes, I breathed. Yes, I want this. I want all of it. He kissed me then, gentle and reverent, like I was something precious he'd feared he'd never find, and I kissed him back, pouring months of denied feelings into that single perfect moment. When we finally pulled apart, both breathless, he rested his hand against my cheek. The council won't be pleased, he warned. There will be resistance, challenges. Some will see you as weak, as inappropriate. Can you handle that? I've been seen as weak and inappropriate my whole life, I said. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. Let them challenge me. I'll prove them wrong. He laughed, the sound rich with joy. That's my queen. The formal announcement came a week later, during the winter solstice celebration. The great hall was packed with pack members and allied alphas, the air thick with anticipation and the scent of pine and roasted meat. I stood beside Elias at the high table, wearing a dress that Mrs. Thornfield had commissioned, deep blue velvet that made my pale hair shine like starlight. Lily sat on my other side, beaming with excitement barely contained. When Elias stood to speak, silence fell immediately. Tonight, we celebrate the longest night and the promise of returning light, he began, his voice carrying to every corner. It seems fitting, then, to share news that brings light to my own life. His hand found mine, warm and sure. I've asked Emma Whitfield to be my wife, to stand beside me as queen, and to continue being the mother my daughter already knows her to be. She has accepted. The silence that followed was heavy, shocked, uncertain. I felt eyes on me from every direction, assessing, judging. My old instincts screamed at me to make myself smaller, to apologize for taking up space. But then Lily stood on her chair, small but fierce, and shouted, "Emma's going to be my mama, and she's the best." The spell broke. Helena, the cook, stood and began clapping. Sophie joined her. Then the guards who'd protected us. Then more and more pack members. The applause built like a wave. Not universal, but strong enough to drown out the dissenters. An older alpha from a neighboring territory approached our table, his expression skeptical. "A human queen is unprecedented, Your Majesty. How can she represent our kind when she doesn't share our nature?" Elias's eyes flashed amber, his alpha power radiating through the room. She represents what we should aspire to be. Strong without cruelty, fierce in protecting those she loves. Capable of seeing worth where others see only weakness. If that's not what our kind should value, then perhaps we need to reconsider what we are. The alpha held his gaze for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Perhaps you're right. Welcome, my lady." He bowed to me, and others followed his lead. Not everyone was convinced. I could see disapproval on some faces, hear whispered objections. But enough accepted me. Enough saw that I'd earned my place, that the resistance felt manageable. That night, after the celebrations ended, the three of us returned to the royal suite, soon to be our family quarters. Lily was exhausted but happy, chattering about the desserts and the dancing. I helped her into her nightgown and tucked her into bed. "Emma," she asked sleepily, "when you marry Papa, does that mean you'll stay forever? You won't ever leave?" My throat tightened. "Never," I promised. "I'm yours, sweetheart. For as long as you want me. Forever then," she said firmly. "Because I'm never letting you go," I kissed her forehead. "Forever it is." Elias stood in the doorway, watching us with an expression so full of love it made my chest ache. When I joined him in the sitting room, he pulled me close. "Thank you," he murmured into my hair. For what? For choosing us. For taking a risk on this broken little family. His arms tightened around me, for showing us that the pieces could be put back together, even if they never quite fit the same way again. You're not broken, I said softly. You're healing. There's a difference. We're healing, he corrected. All three of us together. The wedding took place in early spring, when the first flowers emerged from the melting snow. We held it in the garden that Celeste had designed, among the blooms she'd planted. It felt right. Not erasing her memory, but honoring it, while acknowledging that life continued, that love could grow again in soil enriched by grief. Lily served as flower girl, scattering petals with solemn importance. Mrs. Thornfield cried, though she tried to hide it. Sophie caught the bouquet and blushed when one of the guards winked at her. When Elias and I exchanged vows, his hands trembled slightly. I promise to choose you every day, he said, to see you, hear you, cherish you, to build a life where you never feel invisible or unwanted again. My own voice shook. I promise to stand beside you, to challenge you when you need it, and support you always. To love Lily as my own, to be brave enough to belong, even when it's scary. The kiss that sealed our marriage was witnessed by hundreds, but it felt like we were alone, just two people who'd survived loneliness and loss, choosing to face the future together. Life settled into new rhythms after that. I took on queenly duties gradually, focusing first on the areas where I could make a real difference, establishing better support for orphans throughout the territory, creating programs to help human wolf families integrate, advocating for the vulnerable who had no voice. Some pack members remained skeptical, but most came to respect me. I would never be a warrior queen, would never shift or fight in battles, but I could be diplomatic when Elias's temper flared, could see solutions he missed, could remind him and the council that strength without compassion was just brutality. Lily flourished. She started school with other pack children, made friends, laughed freely. She still had hard days, still missed her mother. We all did. But she'd learned that grief and joy could coexist, that loving me didn't mean forgetting Celeste. On the anniversary of Celeste's death, the three of us visited her memorial in the garden. Lily laid flowers on the stone bench, while Elias stood with his hand on her shoulder. I hung back, giving them space for their private goodbye. But Lily called me over. Mama Emma, come here. I want to tell Mama Celeste about you. I joined them, and she spoke to the memorial with the unself-conscious honesty of childhood. Mama, this is Emma. She's Papa's wife now, and my mama too. She takes care of us really good. I think you'd like her. She reads funny voices like you did, and she's kind like you were. She looked up at me with her storm gray eyes. I love her a lot. Is that okay? My vision blurred with tears. Elias's arm came around my shoulders, and I felt his own grief and gratitude in that touch. I think, he said softly, that your mama would be very happy knowing you have someone who loves you so much. That we both do. We stood there together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. A family rebuilt from broken pieces, stronger for having survived the breaking. 5 years passed, then 10. Lily grew into a remarkable young woman. Fierce and compassionate, confident in her own worth, she spoke of pursuing diplomacy, of strengthening bonds between territories. She wore her dual heritage, wolf and human influence, as a badge of honor. I'm who I am because of both my mothers, she told me once. Mama Celeste taught me to find beauty in everything. You taught me that strength comes in many forms. Together, you made me whole. The pack prospered under our joint leadership. Elias handled military and territorial matters, while I focused on social programs and alliance building. We balanced each other, complemented each other's weaknesses, celebrated each other's strengths, and we loved each other, deeply, constantly, with the appreciation of people who knew how rare and precious such love was. On a spring morning, much like the one where our story began, I stood in that same garden watching Lily practice a speech for the Interpack Council. At 17, she was already commanding attention, already proving herself worthy of the legacy she'd inherit. Elias came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? About how far we've all come, I said, leaning back against him. About that terrified girl on a bus, convinced she didn't belong anywhere, who somehow found everything she'd been searching for. "That girl was brave," he murmured. "She just didn't know it yet. She learned," I said. "You and Lily taught her. We taught each other." He turned me to face him, his amber eyes warm with love. "You saved us, Emma. You saved my daughter, and you saved me. Never doubt that. We saved each other," I corrected, echoing his words from so long ago. "That's what family does." Lily finished her speech and ran over, nearly knocking us both down with her enthusiastic hug. "How was that? Did I sound authoritative enough?" "You sounded perfect," I said, smoothing her dark hair. "Your father and I are so proud of you." "Both of you are biased," she said. But she was beaming. "Absolutely," Elias agreed. "Comes with the territory of being your parents." We stood there together, the three of us, in the garden where Celeste's memory lived in every bloom. The white stone bench bore a new inscription now, added on our 5th anniversary, and for Emma, who taught us that families are not just born, but chosen. Not just inherited, but built with love. Always and forever, E.T. Somewhere in the forest, wolves howled their ancient songs. In the village, children played without fear. In the estate, staff moved through their routines with efficiency and pride. And in this garden, a family stood together, proof that love could grow even in the hardest soil, that broken people could heal, that belonging was something you could choose and be chosen for in return. I had started as an invisible girl with nothing, expecting nothing, hoping for nothing. I had become a queen, a mother, a woman who knew her own worth. But more than that, I had become someone who was truly, completely, irrevocably loved. And I had learned to love in return, fiercely, faithfully, without fear. That was the real transformation, not the crown or the title or the power. Just the simple, extraordinary miracle of belonging, of being home.